All right, you ready for this?
Ready.
Hey everybody, this is Tom Salemi. Welcome back to the DeviceTalks Weekly podcast. We have a abbreviated version of the podcast for you. Actually, it's kind of a preview for DeviceTalks West, which is happening next week, October 19th and 20th at the Santa Clara Convention Center. If you're not going, well, shame on you. You're going to miss a great time. Thank you to the hundreds of folks who are coming, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. And thank you to the hopefully hundreds more who are still registering and will join us on Wednesday and Thursday again at the Santa Clara Convention Center. We will have 2 days of conversations centered around product development, innovation, investment. I'm going to be moderating a panel of VCs. We'll talk about how they're viewing each technologies, AI, robotics. We'll go work through it all to understand how VCs are viewing those opportunities. We'll be talking about supply chain. Chris Newmarker is leading a conversation about that. We'll have a few presentations about product design and R&D, including a panel that I'm moderating with Sean Hooley. We'll talk with leading medical executives at medical device companies about how they're sort of engaging with the clinical side of the house and connecting or liaising with the communicating in between the healthcare professionals and research and development folks in their own house, trying to help the R&D folks see what the problems are on the clinical side. We've got many conversations. I don't have the agenda in front of me because I feel like it's burned into my brain, but there's a lot going on for folks who want to develop new devices, who want to develop devices that can be used at home, who want to get insights on where fields like robotic surgery are going. We have a couple of great robotics events that are connected with us that aren't connected to robotic surgery, but will be directed at the robotics industry and certainly will be essential meetings. That is the Robo Business meeting and the Field Robotics Engineering Forum Field Robotics Engineering Forum Conference. So there's a lot going on. Forgive me. I'm tired. It's late here on Friday night, but I really wanted to get a podcast out to you. So it's going to be a great couple of days. And I've said that a few times, but I really do mean it. And I hope you'll join us. Go to DeviceTalks.com to register. I will also be leading a couple of conversations, and that's where we are today. I'll be on day one interviewing Gary Guthart, the CEO of Intuitive. And we'll be talking about where Intuitive is headed, how it's preparing for the competition that is coming, and how that sort of move from or transition from being first mover to leader of a pack will impact Intuitive. So what I wanted to do today is run a bit of the interview I did with Gary Guthart for our first episode of Intuitive Talks, which came out last year. And in this clip that goes on for about 10 minutes, so Gary Guthart really sort of gives the origin story for Intuitive. So this will sort of bring you up to the point where we're going to pick up our conversation more or less at DeviceTalks West. That's happening in the afternoon of day one. So it'll be at 1:20. We'll say just after lunch on day one. And I hope you'll join us there. We're going to talk with Gary again about what Intuitive is doing to respond to the coming tide or the rising tide of competition. So after the excerpt with Gary Guthart, I'll play a portion of an interview I did with Leslie Trigg, CEO of Outset Medical, who of course has been a leader in the hospital or hospital care at home movement, developing their tablet device and helping dialysis patients get that care at home, freeing them from dialysis clinics, freeing them from the onerous requirements of dialysis. And in the clip that we'll play after Gary Guthart's clip, you'll hear what Leslie discovered when she became CEO of Outset Medical and why Outset's mission is so important. And I'm really enjoying my conversations with Leslie. I was listening to the podcast and laughing along with her recount of her entry into medtech. So I'm actually going to include links to both interviews, the full episodes. If folks want more, they can go to your podcast description, and you can listen to the whole episodes. You can find them both on DeviceTalks.com as well. So I will, in between the two episodes, the two interviews, I will give you a little more information about the event, which includes an outset-led conversation that I'm really excited to hear about. Or really excited to have them at the show. So, without any further delay, I'd like to start this interview, or the portion of this interview, with Gary Guthart. He is the CEO of Intuitive Surgical, and again, he'll be our keynote in the afternoon of October 19th at DeviceTalks West at the Santa Clara Convention Center. Gary Guthart, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tom. Pleasure to be here.
It's going to be a great series. Really happy to be focusing on Intuitive, and we're going to be looking at a lot of different aspects, both technical and clinical. But we really kind of want to kick off the series with a conversation about how everything came together, kind of to set the tone. And I always enjoy these origin stories, so to speak. So I was hoping you could take us back to the beginning. I listened to an interview you did with DeviceTalks a few years ago at one of our conferences. I believe there was a basketball game sort of was a key event to the creation of Intuitive Surgical. Can you take us back into the early 90s?
Sure. Yeah, I'll clean up the basketball game story a little bit. I got introduced to the technology at a place called Stanford Research Institute. It's Northern California. You use things from Stanford Research Institute, SRI, all the time. SRI is credited for inventing the computer mouse. The voice recognition technology that's in Siri was invented there. And a team was working on, one of a few teams in the world, working on robotic-assisted surgery early on. They predated me. I joined SRI coming out of graduate school as a postdoc in 1992. There was a group for robotic-assisted surgery that had been originally funded by some SRI funds and NIH, later funded by DARPA. Mm-hmm. And that group was in process. It was started by a gentleman named Phil Green and later led by others. And that basketball story, I was working there in 1992, 93. I ran into the head of that lab playing basketball, and we got to know each other on the sidelines. And he was looking for help in a certain kind of algorithms and mathematics that I was trained in. Only in Silicon Valley do you have that conversation on the sidelines of a basketball court. And he invited me to come over and look at the kind of work they were doing. And it was the early prototypes for the kinds of technology that you see in our products today.
Now, what was driving that early effort? Was this a military initiative first to sort of develop a battlefield robot, or who came along and said we need to find a way to assist surgeons with robots?
Yeah, it's kind of an often repeated myth that the first application or first thought was a military application.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I asked.
The first thoughts were for precision surgery. The folks at SRI, they predate me. And by the way, I'm not a founder at Intuitive either, just to be clear.
Sure.
Their original thoughts early on were that they could advance manual laparoscopy and other precision surgery applications using this kind of technology. They also thought there were remote surgery applications as might be applied in battlefield environments. So there is a story with DARPA and the lead at DARPA, Dr. Rick Satava, that does intersect with SRI early on. But it wasn't that was the first thought. Both those thoughts were present in that early group over time. They had some funding from different sources, including SRI, including NIH, and ultimately the largest funding came from Dr. Satava and DARPA.
So what was that moment that you experienced the technology and you saw this could be something?
So they were working on getting what amounts to the control systems right, making the the system that they were developing, this robot assist system, intuitive, making it feel right. Mm-hmm. And they had invited me to come over and see it. I had not seen it before. And they gave me a little task. The project lead, a gentleman named Ajit Shah, Ajit said, "Here, try this." And he handed me a set of loops, and he asked me to do some suturing by hand, kind of under magnification. And I'm not bad with my hands. I had some prior experience in kind of microassembly and other things. And but I never had any medical exposure. That was my first exposure, was to suture back together a femoral artery on a rat in a lab. And so I tried that manually, and I made a little progress, but it was really hard. And then he sat me down on their prototype, first time I had seen it, which had a console and the surgical environment with robotic manipulators for the surgeon, and then action at the patient. And I did the same activity with zoomed, scaled up vision and with robotic assistance. And it was just immediately obvious to me. I stood up at that moment and went, wow, this is unbelievably easier and really cool. So it was one of those things where a demo was worth more than 1,000 words. And after that, I went back to my boss. I was involved in a different program, and I asked if he would support my transfer to that program, and he did. And from there on, I was all in. So it was a lightning strike moment for me, and some serendipity that I had run into Ajit and that he had invited me to come join that effort.
That's fantastic. Oh, those moments are wondrous. So you mentioned you weren't a founder of Intuitive. It was founded in 95. You though joined in 96. So you certainly came in the early side of things. How did you make that transition? How did you decide to join a company?
Yeah, I was younger at that time. I was enjoying SRI, and I met the founders. At the time, there were three folks who had founded that company, Intuitive. One medical founder, one a technologist, and then a person from the venture capital side. And I got to know the technologist founder. His name is Rob Young, and he had invited me to come join the company. And it took me a while to say yes. My initial instinct was it was going well at SRI. I enjoyed the work. I wasn't quite sure what the business startup might look like. And ultimately, after some back and forth, the person on the venture capital side took me out to coffee. We sat down and we talked, and he convinced me that the experience would be worth it, regardless of where I headed in my career. That's a gentleman named John Freund. And so John asked me to come, and I ultimately said yes. I came in as a control system engineer or algorithms person, and I joined as the 11th person in the company and the 10th technical person, the 10th engineer, which was delightful. I'm glad I said yes.
So how did the CEO position become available to you? How did that happen? And then we can start talking about the company, but I'm kind of interested in following your path a bit.
Yeah. So I started off on the technical side. After a couple of years, we were working hard and growing. And I was asked to lead the algorithms group initially, and then a software group. I did not aspire to be a CEO. That wasn't something that was in my plan. Mm-hmm. But our first outside CEO, Lonnie Smith, came in. I got to know him in 1997. And over the years, he was a fantastic mentor. He had given me additional responsibilities in management. At some point, asked me to be head of operations and then president and COO. So I went through that process in 2010 as part of a planned transition with Lonnie. He stepped up to just be chairman of the board. He had been chairman and CEO, and invited me to be CEO. So I became CEO in 2010 and have been so since.
Amazing. And how was that transition for you? How different is it as a job? I mean, it must be wildly different. And how did you sort of come to manage those differences and become the CEO of a large, significant company?
One of the things that I learned early on was, especially in this space, surgical robots and the kind of technologies that we develop, it's not a one-person show ever. They're complex technologies. You need really great people in all sorts of different places in the organization, from engineers to training people to software to your business systems and everything else. And early on, I learned surround yourself with people who are better than you, who are just outstanding in order to get the job done. And we were lucky. Our early staff were very, very capable and extremely collaborative. And that was kind of drilled into me. early on. As I took on other leadership roles, for example, head of operations, I was not a manufacturing person by training. I had come out of this applied research background. And so my first instincts were to go find people who are just world-class, outstanding people, and invite them to join. Common story, and we did that. And CEO is no different, whether it's chief medical officer or folks who run our business systems or commercial organizations. It's really been find people who are just outstanding in the field and create an environment in which we can succeed together. So in that sense, it was a continuation. The issue's a little bit different in the role that I play. I think our job here, or a job at the CEO position, is make sure we have a strategy that delivers customer value for the long term, that make sure we have an organization that is capable, deeply competent, and well led, and then make sure that the economics work for the company, that it can self-sustain. And so that's kind of the transition.
Understanding that you weren't CEO at the time, from the late 90s into the 2000s, I'm hoping, though, you can still sort of paint a picture for us of those early days when it wasn't, maybe you can characterize the reception that intuitive and robotic surgery received from the healthcare community. But from my perspective, it was never 100% certain that hospitals wanted it, that surgeons wanted it, that they felt they needed it. Do you agree with that sort of assessment? And how did Intuitive sort of go about building support and helping people to see the benefits of the surgery? All right. So as you can see, I ended that interview right when we started talking about where Intuitive sort of fits into the healthcare system, where surgical robotics fits into the healthcare system. A long time has passed since the era that I'm referring to at that question, or at least the time I'm sort of directing at. And we will get into that and much more of the future at DeviceTalks West. So Gary Guthart has left nothing off the table when I talked to him or his office about the things that I want to talk about. So it should be a very engaging conversation. And I hope you will join us on October 19th, just after lunch. And I'm checking the agenda now because I guess it's not as burned in deeply into my brain as I thought. It starts at 1:20, ends at 2:00 on October 19th. So please do join us and listen to where Intuitive is going, or as we call it, how Intuitive intends to remain surgical robotics leader. So in this next clip, again, I have a great conversation, or portion of a great conversation I have with Leslie Trigg. She's a riot. I enjoy talking with Leslie, and I'm excited about this conversation as well. Similarly, I propose things that I wanted to talk to Leslie about, including Outset's recent, let's say, engagement with the FDA that slowed their role a little bit. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how Outset is really changing how dialysis is delivered. We'll talk about the challenges of being a public company, and Outset has faced a few of those as well. But really, it's going to be a future-forward sort of conversation as to where this space is headed, where hospital care or care at home is headed, and what Outset is doing to restore a sense of self for dialysis patients. One thing they've done is they've really centered on or really focused on human-centered design, making their Tableau device easy for people to use. And we'll actually have a couple of Tableaus on site, not during Leslie's conversation, but at 10:50 a.m. We'll have a panel put on by Outset professionals called Driving Innovation Through Human-Centered Design. So we'll talk about how they created a product that folks can use safely and effectively in their homes. So it's an important topic. We're hearing a lot about human-centered design lately, and this will be a great opportunity for designers to understand what Outset did. So in addition to that, we'll have conversations about the FDA with Kwame Elmer of MedTech Impact Partners and Jennifer McCaney of UCLA Biodesign. We've got a great panel featuring Leanne Teplitsky of Zimmer Biomet and Bill Hunter of Canary Medical. And that conversation will be led by Lisa Sunan of Venture Valkyrie Consulting. So there's a lot of things I'm not going to hit upon. We've got keynotes with Brett Wall of Medtronic. He is Executive Vice President and President of Neuroscience, and he'll be talking about bioelectronic medicine. We'll have a keynote presentation by Giovanni DiNapoli of Medtronic, talking about the DNA of innovation. We'll have a keynote interview the day before that Chris Newmarker is leading with Celine Martin, company group chairman of cardiovascular and specialty services at Johnson & Johnson. And the whole day is opened up with an interview with Deb Kilpatrick. She is coach, CEO, and executive chair of Evidation Health. And that interview is again being conducted by Lisa Sunan of Venture Valkyrie. So I could scroll through this agenda, and I'd be here all day just sort of reading it to you. I do invite you, just go to DeviceTalks.com and check it out. It really is great, and I'm really, really proud of it. And I would love to see you there, and would love to see you enjoy it. So let's hear this clip, that portion of the interview I did with Leslie Trigg, CEO of Outset Medical. So let's focus now on your company. Take a moment just to kind of give us the quick overview of Outset's mission and Tableau's role in improving dialysis for patients. Where are you able to help? What is your product able to do?
Sure. Happy to do that. So our sort of reason for being is to reduce the cost and complexity of dialysis for the provider while radically elevating the care experience for the patient. Why that's important, a couple of reasons it's important. Number one, dialysis is a big problem getting bigger. It is fueled by hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. And those are sort of three trend lines that we know are continuing to go up and to the right. As a result of that, just in the United States alone, there are well over 550,000 people on dialysis. And that number is many times bigger around the world. When patients have to go on dialysis, and this is chronic dialysis for the rest of your life, it is not optional. You are going to go to dialysis 3 times a week for a couple of hours each time, COVID or no COVID, economic downturn or no downturn, whatever's going on in the world, you're still going to go to dialysis. It is life-sustaining. And the environment in which we entered and got started in this now, 10 years ago, was one that was not at all hospitable to new technology. In fact, there really hadn't been a new device for something like home dialysis, let's say, in over 15 years when we eventually got approval for home. And it was kind of a landscape of these like mini equipment monopolies and a very static service model that also hadn't changed. I mean, most patients are told you're going to show up on these days at this time, you're going to sit in this chair and be served by this person, kind of whether you like it or whether it's convenient for you or not. And so the moral imperative of the company, and we certainly have a financial imperative and promises, as I said earlier, that we make to shareholders to earn the right to deliver on the moral imperative, is this, which ultimately is to deliver choice and convenience to, I'll say, the consumer, to any of us who find ourselves or our relatives needing dialysis for the rest of their life. And the reason why I think choice and control and flexibility is so vital is I think that it's fundamental to sort of personal liberty, identity, and self-worth. We control every element of our day. Most elements, most decisions, we're in charge. But when you start on dialysis, much of that choice and personal autonomy is taken from you. And what I've experienced talking to many, many, many people on dialysis is that it really starts to erode at their very sense of self. When those individuals have been able to take the opportunity to be back in control, which is at the home, you decide, you're back in the driver's seat, what days you're going to dialyze, what times are convenient for you. It enables people to go back to work. The unemployment rate, or I should say the employment rate in the dialysis population at large is 19%. That's not because everybody's over the age of 80. It's because you're told this is when the clinic has availability for you. And if that's 1:00 in the afternoon, that may not be consistent with your ability to stay employed. So again, being back at home, you can dialyze at 5 a.m. or 10 p.m. or 7 p.m., whenever you want. But I think more important than schedule flexibility is sort of this to me, a fundamental human right to, as I said, liberty and a fundamental sense of identity and self-worth that we don't realize is actually really very much tied to our ability to make decisions for ourselves.
That's amazing. No, in reading one of the stories on your website, the gentleman said that I think it was 3 times a week, 5 hours a day that he would have to go and get it. And it was like, he called it a part-time job. Mm-hmm. And that really resonated. And it kind of sounds like It feels like almost a diabetes community where someone is called upon to make 300 decisions a day to monitor their lives. They lost control of a big part of their lives. So it sounds like a very similar sort of thread with dialysis.
You make a great point with diabetes, because that analogy came to mind for me very quickly. Just looking at dialysis before I knew much about it was, well, how is this so much further behind diabetes? Because patients who do have type 1 or type 2, they are completely enabled by technology. And that's technology that continues to get better and better and better and better every single year. That's been missing from dialysis. Number 2, they're at home. And I don't know everything there is to know about the history of diabetes management, but there was a time when patients would go into these diabetes clinics, right? And those still exist. But those clinics today are all aimed at allowing patients to just manage diabetes in their home as something that's just a part of their life, not ruling their life. And that felt really different to me than what was going on in dialysis. And so I think diabetes actually has really served as a North Star to me as what's possible. I know these things are possible because service providers paired up and partnered with technology providers have created and made that so. And we can do the same thing in dialysis.
That's terrific. I was intrigued by the stage you set when you said that there were these forces already in dialysis that sort of made entry difficult for new players. As someone entering this field, what drove you? Was it, we have this great technology, we must push it forward? Is it the moral imperative that you sort of mentioned earlier? I mean, certainly financial comes into it to a degree, that everything does when you're starting a company. But what do you tell to yourself that convinces you that you're going to change this ecosystem and sort of run through these forces that may be trying to keep you out?
I would say it's not just one thing, of course, as it never is in life. As I reflect, listening to your question and reflecting back, I think it was a combination of naivete. Let's be honest. I really had no idea what I was up against. I can tell you about all these forces now in great detail because I've been in the space for 10 years, but so did not know what I know today. But so a healthy dose of naivete and a healthier dose of anger. I just was pissed. And I started getting pissed the first time that I had the opportunity to visit with someone. He was a Vietnam vet. He was living in a mobile home in San Jose. And one of our early medical advisors had enabled me to connect with him. And I was able to watch him set up this one home device, the only one that had ever been approved. And it just really pissed me off because it was needlessly complex. It was needlessly burdensome. And I think coming out of the cardiology space and, companies like Guidant and others, I knew how fast, diabetes, another one, I knew how fast the technology was changing and being improved for the consumers and the patients that it served. And why is that not happening here? Like, we are making people's lives needlessly onerous. So that's kind of where the anger came from. And then I would say probably the third element for me, and if my parents ever listen to this, they'll probably laugh. Like, I did spend much of my high school years grounded. So I don't love being told not to do something. And so when early on these impediments, some of the, I'll just call it the attitudes from some of the incumbents started piling up, and it started to feel more and more like, that is so cute that you guys are going to try to do this, and you will just see how that goes for you. So that tends to inspire and motivate me. So probably some combination of those three things.
All right. Well, that is a wrap. We're going to just stop the podcast right here. And I do want to thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed these little clips. I hope if you want to hear more, go to the DeviceTalks.com page. You can find them there. You go to DeviceTalks.com. You can find them there. Device Talks, Leslie's interview was on Device Talks Weekly, and Gary Guthart's interview was on Intuitive Talk. So once again, I'm leaving things out that I really want to talk to you about, but frankly, I'm tired and I'm ready to go home. And I just want you to come to the conference and enjoy it all, or at least go to DeviceTalks.com to check it out. If you're in the area and you want to attend, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll try to make it happen for you. It'll be great to see you there. So do go to DeviceTalks.com, check out the agenda. Find me on LinkedIn. Find me on Twitter. I am at MedTechTom. Find Chris Newmarker on Twitter at Newmarker. And of course, Chris is on LinkedIn as well. Chris Newmarker, as in a new marker. And that's it. That's a wrap. We're excited to see the hundreds of you who are coming to DeviceTalks West in Santa Clara. It's going to be a great couple of days. And if you haven't yet made plans to come, please do. It would be great to see you there. And again, reach out on LinkedIn. That's a wrap, folks. Tune in next week. We will have an episode of the DeviceTalks Weekly podcast with a special guest who I initially planned to have today, but had to push that interview off. But he's got some big news. And we'll also be putting out an episode of Intuitive Talks and an episode of Medtronic Talks. So a lot of great podcasts coming your way over the next week. DeviceTalks Weekly will come to you a little later next week. It may not be on Friday, it may be on Thursday. And then we'll try to get our rhythm back the following week after the conference. So once again, thanks for being part of the DeviceTalks family. Thanks for your kindness and your support. And really would love to see you at DeviceTalks West in Santa Clara.